to CEO.CA's Inside the Boardroom. Based in Canada, Eloro Resources leads exploration across South America and Quebec with a strategic focus on precious and base metals. The company's flagship asset is called the Iska Iska Property in Bolivia's Potosi department, a substantial silver tin polymetallic deposit where Eloro holds a 99% ownership. Thomas Larsen is here in studio with us to tell us a lot more about the investment opportunity. Thomas, thank you for joining me here.
Rachel, pleasure to meet you for the first time. Thank you for this opportunity. This will be somewhat brief, I assume, 10, 15 minutes, but just wanted to highlight what Eloro is about and especially some of the latest drill results and just the focus on where the company is going over the next, at least short term, 6 to 12 months.
Let's talk first about what aspects of Iska attracted Eloro to the property in the first place.
Well, it was through a fellow, a Dr. Osvaldo Arce, who is president of the Bolivian Geological Society of Bolivia from 2010 until 2018. He's written 2 volumes on what they call metallogenic, bonanza-style Bolivian types multi-metal, which is quite prevalent, polymetallic type systems, which in our case encompass tin, silver, lead, zinc. But there's 3 or 4 giant type deposits like that, which are the largest in the world. We were looking for an opportunity. We were having a bit of difficulty in Peru, in the northern district of Ancash. We have another project there called La Victoria, a good prospective, copper gold type system. But we just felt there was a lot of red tape trying to move drill pads, things like that. And when I saw the success of a few companies in Bolivia, explorers, like one in particular, New Pacific Metals in 2019, doing really, really well, getting a lot of attention from the street. Their share cap moved up to close to $700-800 million. Banks and such were following the company. That sort of relieved me from the standpoint of that biasness I might have had on dealing in Bolivia, because you've heard a lot of stories on Bolivia over the years, like many other places. Anyway, that was sort of with Dr. Osvaldo Arce, our connection with him through Dr. Bill Pearson. They've known each other for years. Bill's our senior VP exploration. He resides here in Canada. Just through that communication, the success of New Pacific, we mandated Dr. Osvaldo Arce to basically become our managing director, set up Bolivian sub, and look for a project where we could really explore, put the money in the ground, and see whether or not we would go forward. And Iska Iska, that he had spent time on back in 2016 with the private owners, it's all important to be dealing with a private ownership structure. He was asked by the private owners, the Villegas family, to come and take a look at this massive volcanic edifice, which he did in 2016. And through that, he spent a month at Iska Iska, basically looking at some of the old adits higher up in the volcanic edifice, and realized how strong the system was, but not amenable to artisanal high grading type mining that you see everywhere. This is more bulk tonnage, very similar to what we see over at San Cristobal, which is a major bulk tonnage, formerly owned by Sumitomo.
Also in Bolivia?
180 kilometers due west of us.
Understood.
So he was the one that suggested this particular company, property at least, and that's when we moved forward. And then just when COVID set in, we were able to lock up the deal in January of 2020. We had Micon International go down to vet things as an independent engineering group, so we could move forward with our investors. And we started the initial drilling campaign in September of 2020, and we haven't looked back. Every single hole we've drilled has been mineralized, not all commercial, but mineralized. It just shows the extent of the system, how powerful it was, when it was first formed back in the Miocene period, when all volcanism took place.
Well, let's talk about your latest assay results from your definition diamond drilling program. I read on the press release, quote, it's a very large silver, zinc, lead dominant system next to a high-grade tin system. While these two systems are likely genetically related, this means that the company may potentially have two world-class deposits on one property. Tell us what the significance of that is, as how it positions Eloro in the mining sector, and also potential economic advantages too.
Well, first of all, you've got to understand that this project had never been drilled. We were, a smaller exploration and development company, publicly traded back then on the Venture, now on the TSX. So we went in there starting to drill based on Dr. Osvaldo's knowledge and Dr. Bill Pearson's extensive knowledge for assessing big system type projects. So the rest is history. $50 million was raised to drill off roughly 120,000 meters. And, we came in with an endowment on the MRE that was released, metal endowment with our first pass MRE that was released back in September of 2023 of over 289 million ounces of silver in situ, 1.74 million tons of lead, 4 million tons of zinc, and then only 130,000 tons of tin. So that's what the drilling outlined. A lot of it was deemed as somewhat low grade, but people have to understand these were 100-meter spacings plus. We were trying to get an understanding of the system. So fast forward, after that came out, we decided to infill the upper area of this volcanic, basically the center is what we deem as a caldera, the center of the volcano. It's a collapsed and resurgent type of caldera. And basically filling in at 50-meter spacings. So the last 15,000 meters of drilling has really gone after moving the grades up, making sure the market realizes that, there's pockets of lower grade material, but this is a continuous system. There's high pockets, high grade pockets, high value in other areas within that edifice, within that center. And we call it the Santa Barbara Center. And that's where we're moving forward for the economics, which will be in the PEA report, Preliminary Economic Assessment Report, which will allow the company to discuss NAV, for instance, net asset value, what the actual value is based on after recoveries of the 4 different metals, what the operating costs are. This is very unique in that it's an open pit model, similar to San Cristobal. So your operating costs, your mining costs are very cheap. You're in the lowest quartile worldwide. And this is proven, documented. And we've signed an NDA with San Cristobal Mining as to the margins that they were making when they went into production on $1 billion spend in 2006. And it is still running at 50,000 ton a day as we speak right now. So that's sort of the model. When we talk about world-class deposits like a tin deposit or a polymetallic silver, lead, zinc, we have to go carefully. We believe that we've really outlined what they call a feeder system. We're on the tin porphyry belt. It runs 1,000 kilometers south-north from the border of Argentina, southern Bolivia, up into southeastern Peru. And that's a tin porphyry. It's like a copper porphyry that you see in Chile running up the Andean. That's more copper porphyry, a deep feeder. So we're on a tin porphyry, which is unique. There aren't any other tin porphyries that we know of, at least worldwide. So for us, this particular hole, tin's been a little more elusive from the standpoint of finding silver consistently. Tin's a little more difficult. It's a deeper, higher temperature type metal, density, heavy. And if you can find it in oxides, which we have with this press release, it's in what they call cassiterite host. What that means is you can separate much more easily, so it doesn't cost as much. Gravity is the methodology rather than fuming, which is high cost CapEx. So the significance, though, of this hole is that we were getting grades over, up to 1.4%, and in veinlets up to 5-6%, which is very typical of the most valuable tin operations, mines in the world, which are all in Bolivia.
Now, what are the use cases for tin?
Well, tin is it's a small, it's deemed as the glue of metals, basically soldering purposes for electric, circuitry, circuit boards, electronics in cars. There's probably 1,500 different applications for tin. It's not just a tin can, but to give you a tin can application, to give you an idea, tin is around $14 a pound. Copper is around 4 or 5. So it's 3 times the value of copper. There's only 300,000 tons of tin produced worldwide, out of which 60-70% of that comes from Myanmar and Indonesia, that then feeds over to China. In our case, there's not too many bulk tonnage well, there are no bulk tonnage tin operations. I believe we will be the first. The United States have 50,000 tons of tin consumption yearly, no source of supply. So it's deemed as the number 1 or 2 critical metal out there at this point. So I think this is going to be something that sets us apart from almost any other company I know of, because I don't know of any silver producing, tin producing type of combinations out there in a bulk tonnage, low cost operational type of format that we're aiming to attract those investors, those off-takers, to help finance, the bigger picture, similar to what Sumitomo did.
What are the plans looking like to further define the resource?
So because of this hole, we want to infill around this particular hole. It's a vertical hole that went into the southwest, into this feeder, this breccia feeder system that is found down at the tin porphyry side. We want to infill that. The zone itself is around 700 by 400 by 700. And if you then, multiply that through with, gravity, 2.8 for density, you come in with about a 400 or 500 million ton area. Now, that's sort of the sandbox of this particular part of the system that's close by to the Santa Barbara ramp and the silver that we've been coming up with adjacent to this. So we want to infill around this hole so we can bring in some of that material into the PEA. So if we can get 25%, if we can move this PEA from this discovery up to the 180, 200 million ton mark for the PEA, San Cristobal came out at around 220 million tons with no tin, with around 45 grams silver, 1.5% zinc, 0.8% lead. And that was enough for them to go on a production decision back in 2006. So we're fortunate we've got a model that we're following, but we also have tin.
Which they didn't. Now, I would like to close with talking about Bolivia. Now, what's the government support like for the mining industry? And what's local infrastructure looking like to support Iska's development?
Well, we're in a great area. We're in the southern part. We're up in the Altiplano. We're not in the jungles, sort of sea level areas to the northeast. Bolivia is a very nationalistic, proud country. So you do see protection of property, of people's welfare, which is what you should do. I think a government should look after their people that they are hired or voted in to take care of. However, you do need initiative, you do need incentive. One of the great things about us, it's privately owned. So, and because it's a bulk tonnage type of model, the government, as they did with San Cristobal when they had a much tougher president in the MAS party, a fellow called Evo Morales, he left 2 major operations. He didn't touch them. One was San Cristobal, because it's a major benefactor, tax receipts for the Bolivian government. And also Pan American Silver, another 40 kilometers away from us, which is more of a higher grade silver operation. Those 2 mines they probably contributed close to 30-40% of the overall mining tax receipts to the Bolivian government. So anything large scale like that, they don't want to try and finance something like that. So I think we're really, really well protected. And again, it's private. We have Dr. Osvaldo Arce. The owners are fantastic. The Villegas family, very well respected in the area. We have one of the top mining lawyers in the country, Pablo Ardone, who's incredible. He's a director of the company. We've been working with him and PPO, their legal team, for the last 3-4 years. Yeah, we're pretty comfortable. I met some of the ministers when I was down there in April. They need US dollars. They want to see some action coming in. And, they see how sizable, how this could really help, GDP in Bolivia. So I'm not too worried about the short-term up and down noise that you always hear about. I mean, that's been a deterrent, and that's why there is a bit of a discount to this stock. But I totally disagree. We've been there for 4 years. We've had zero issues. And they're great people. So I really respect them a lot.
Well, thank you for being in studio to tell us about the story.
Great. Well, thank you for having me, Rachel.
So that's Thomas Larsen of Eloro Resources. Audiences can find Eloro on the CEO.CA channel under ELO. You can also find the company under the TSX and the other exchanges listed below. Thanks for watching.